The childhood friend was a top student, a rare and unattainable beauty. In the year of the college entrance exam, he lived up to everyone's expectations and became the top scorer. Everything went smoothly, and he achieved great success and fame. At a class reunion a few years later, the married school beauty got drunk and, half crying and half laughing, said, "Top student Sue has a bright future ahead." No wonder he refused my confession back then. The usually calm and composed childhood friend panicked, and moments later, his questioning gaze immediately turned to me. I began to explain, "You said those love letters didn't need to be given to you, just throw them away directly." He nodded at the time and didn't say much. I thought the matter was over. But that very night, my hand was broken by the people he brought. The stick landed on his hand, the pain piercing to the bone. He just stood aside, his expression dark and unclear. How does it feel when something you care about is casually destroyed by someone else? This is the price you pay for ruining our fate. With just 2 sentences, my dream of becoming a successful designer was shattered. When I opened my eyes again, I was back to the day I held the school beauty's love letter. "Freya, are these all the love letters for the top student today? Tell me, what kind of type does he actually like?" My desk mate looked curiously at the stack of love letters in my hand and asked. Hearing her voice, I suddenly snapped back to reality, cold sweat sliding down my temple. The pink love letter stung my eyes painfully, and I unconsciously clenched the envelope so tightly that my fingertips turned white. It was these boring things that caused me to lose the use of both my hands. Luckily, I came back. My desk mate saw me staring at the envelope silently for a long time and, worried, patted me on the shoulder. "Freya, what's wrong? Are you feeling unwell?" Suppressing the hatred and excitement in my heart, I turned to her and gave a smile. "It's nothing. I was just lost in thought." Seeing that I was indeed fine, she sighed in relief, then looked at the love letters in my hand, shook her head, and said, "What a pity. All of these are going straight to the trash." Clutching the envelope, my expression darkened, recalling the ordeals of my past life. I let out a cold sneer in my heart. "Throw it in the trash. No, it's better to return this to its rightful owner." I tidied up the love letters in my hand, placing the school beauties on top, making sure it could be seen at a glance, then turned around and put the letters behind me. Behind me is the seat of Lysander Sue. He is not at his seat right now, but when he returns, he will definitely see it first thing. My desk mate looked at me somewhat surprised, as if not understanding why I suddenly changed. I smiled and said, "I thought it over carefully, and it's better to let him decide for himself. After all, this isn't my business, and it's not right for me to interfere." My desk mate was momentarily stunned, then nodded. "I guess that's true." Just as the long break was about to end, Lysander Sue, who had been called to the office by the teacher, returned to the classroom. He looked at the love letter on the desk, his handsome brows furrowing, and called my name, "Freya Lynn," just after calling. His voice suddenly stopped. I rolled my eyes at him with my back turned, suppressing my disgust, then turned around and put on a show. "What?" He didn't respond to me, his gaze falling on the love letter, emotions swirling in his eyes. The neatly written characters Liu Ying caused a great change in his emotions. After a long moment, he reached out and put the love letter away, his voice calm. "It's nothing." Seeing the obvious upward curve of his lips, I understood in my heart, he was happy. Having won the heart of the one he loved, the more I looked at his smiling face, the more disgusted I felt inside. In the previous life, Lysander Sue acted all aloof and impatiently made me handle his love letters, saying he didn't want to waste time on such trivial matters and affect his studies. He silently rejected his suitors, implicitly allowing them to trouble me without limit. I thought the 2 families were close, so it was just a small matter. I didn't pay much attention and sacrificed my own time to handle his mess. In the end, after he achieved success and fame, he told me he regretted it, saying that because of me, he missed the only true love of his life. After his regret, he didn't blame his false pride or his foolishness. Instead, he cut off my hands, making me a sacrifice for his pure love. This kind of behavior is truly disgusting. The way they want it all and still want more is really ugly. It's now senior year of high school. The workload is heavy, and studying every day is exhausting. I would never have thought that such a trivial and boring matter would become a reason for him to take revenge. If I hadn't been treated that way by him, I really wouldn't have known he was such a disgusting person. "You promised me not to bother you with love letters." But in the end, you shamelessly said it was because I didn't remind you that you missed out. I'm not some worm inside your stomach. How the hell am I supposed to know which one of the hundreds of love letters is from your crush? You haven't even accepted me as your mom. Yet you're making such a fuss. I was already annoyed dealing with love letters in my past life. This isn't his trash dump, and I still have to study. If it weren't for the fact that our parents are connected, I would have smashed the love letters he stuffed into my drawer in his face a long time ago. I didn't provoke anyone. But he destroyed the love letters on my behalf, and then he went looking for trouble and ruined my hands. What an idiot, such a fool. I didn't want to see him anymore, so I withdrew my gaze and turned around. Lysander Sue, you resent me, blaming me for everything, causing my dreams to shatter, in this lifetime. I gave you the love letter you wanted. Now I want to see how you choose when both your future and the school beauty are right in front of you, that night after school. I didn't wait for Lysander Sue and soon left the school alone. Since he didn't go home with me, he must have gone to keep an appointment. Recalling the words the school beauty bitterly said at the last class reunion about waiting for him for a long time that day, I chuckled, since both of them are lovers. It's just right for them to be together. I heard the school beauty isn't good at studying. I'd be even happier if Lysander Sue, that arrogant guy, could be taken down. The original trajectory was altered, and I happily went to the mall, only to run into someone who shouldn't have been there. In the end, I still thought this matter was too simple. Just as I was about to push open the cubicle door and leave, I heard a somewhat unfamiliar voice, a love letter. I bet I lost and just wrote it for fun. The Sue guy isn't really my type. Don't be ridiculous. That love letter wouldn't have ended up in Lysander Sue's hands. I've seen it. His childhood sweetheart always handles his love letters for him. Let's not talk about him. It's pointless. A soft, teasing voice sounded, and my hand paused on the door, my expression instantly turning cold. It was Liu Ying's voice. Listening to her casual, joking tone, the expression on my face grew colder and my hand clenched into a fist. Originally, I actually felt a bit guilty towards her, in the previous life. She looked so sad in the private room, and I really doubted myself because of what she said. I thought that if I hadn't interfered with someone else's fate, maybe they wouldn't have missed each other despite liking one another. So, even though I truly hate Lysander Sue and wish I could kill him, I have never thought about ruining him in this lifetime. I thought that as long as I stayed away, it would be fine. After all, the regret from back then was real for Liu Ying. But what about the truth? Liu Ying knew from the start that the love letter would never reach him. She did it on purpose. The ambiguous words she said in the private room were all lies to deceive us. She simply did not like Lysander Sue. I looked at my smooth hands, my eyes filled with pain, as all the memories of my past life flashed rapidly through my mind. Even now, with 10 twisted, piercing pains, I still clearly remember what Lysander Sue said when he made me pay the price. He said, "If it weren't for you, I would be the one marrying Liu Ying right now." He said, "If it weren't for you, I would be the father of the child in her belly." He said, "Freya Lin, this is what you owe us. Even if your hands were severed, you would never be able to repay it." One secretly admired without daring to make a move. The other used emotions to keep someone hanging on. It was something completely unrelated to me. Yet I was the only one who paid the price. A pair of crazy couple. They completely ruined me. The angrier I get, the calmer my mind becomes. In my past life, you destroyed what I cared about most. This time, I will pay back double. I went home alone, and my mother served me some rice, asking worriedly, "Lysander hasn't come home yet. Do you know where he went?" "Of course I know. He's waiting for his sweetheart in the park near the school." Thinking to myself, I shook my head and said doubtfully, "I don't know, he didn't leave the school with me tonight." Mom nodded and sighed. "This child is usually very obedient. What's wrong with him today?" I said nothing and went back to the bedroom after finishing my meal. When Lysander Sue was found, it was already past midnight. According to my mom, he caught a cold and started running a fever as soon as he got home. Uncle Sue drove him to the hospital in the middle of the night. The first thing he did after being discharged and returning to school was to confront me in a deserted corner, just recovering from a serious illness. His face was still somewhat pale, but his eyes stared straight at me, sharp and piercing. "Freya Lin, did you say something to Liu Ying?" After asking, he began to scrutinize my expression. I was so annoyed I laughed, looking at him bluntly. "No, what does this have to do with Liu Ying? Who is she?" What would I have to say to her? I was open and straightforward. He was momentarily at a loss for words, then asked again, "The girl who asked you to deliver the love letter?" I was speechless. A bit impatient. At least 5 people ask me to deliver love letters for them every day. Do I have to remember each one? His eyes flickered slightly, and he fell silent. A chill flashed in my eyes as I shook off his hand that was grabbing me, my tone cold, helping to deliver a love letter and still causing trouble. That's really something. With a cold laugh, I rubbed my wrist, reddened from his grip, and looked at him coldly. If that's the case, then please make it clear to those who have a crush on you. Don't keep dumping trash on me. This is not a recycling bin. Lysander Sue looked at the way I rubbed my wrist, his eyes showing a moment of guilt, but when he heard me call the love letter he gave me trash, he frowned again, his voice slightly low. I misunderstood you, but what you said was also too much. I sneered in my heart. Too much? If you don't speak properly, don't you know how much trouble your suitor has caused me every day? Thinking about how I dealt with his troubles with complete justification, then regretted it, only to see him act as if deeply in love and unbearable, making me pay the price. I hate it so much it makes me grit my teeth. Is it over? Lysander Sue, I only realized today how interesting you are. Your suitors bother me every day, taking up my study time. You're so proud and aloof, and with a casual impatient word, you tell me to just deal with it, which also takes up my daily study time. It's been like this for nearly 3 years straight. I keep thinking, I'm not your mother, and I don't owe you anything. How come when I kindly help you clean up your mess, I get falsely accused and can't even say a harsh word in return? Lysander Sue's face immediately darkened, staring intently at me, wanting to argue. But everything I said was fact, and he had no rebuttal. If you were really a man, you should directly confront the person who upset you. Instead of bringing your suppressed anger to make things difficult for me, I have never been a pushover. The misplaced guilt vanished completely after hearing the truth spoken by Liu Ying. Now my mind is filled with studying hard and doubling the payback for the suffering I endured at Lysander Sue's hands in my past life. Seeing Lysander Sue's stunned expression, I sneered and turned around to leave immediately. From that day on, none of Lysander Sue's admirers bothered me again. And I lived my campus life in peace. He was not in a relationship with Liu Ying. After I scolded Lysander Sue, he did indeed go to talk privately with Liu Ying. The two of them never got together. But from that day on, Lysander Sue changed. I don't know what Liu Ying said, but Lysander Sue began to rebel. He started not doing his homework, sleeping in class, and not coming home at night. It was also at this time that I began to understand part of Liu Ying's true character. She has a gentle and obedient appearance, but her way of doing things is completely the opposite. She always ranked at the bottom in exams and never studied properly. Nightclubs, bars, and KTVs were the places she frequented most. She is naturally playful and lives life as a game, never once taking Lysander Sue seriously. Such a person was once Lysander Sue's greatest dislike, but at this age, the contrast in Liu Ying gave him an irresistible attraction. Lysander Sue took the initiative to approach her, sinking deeper and deeper. Soon, there was no trace left of the aloof beauty he once was. They never held back. Lysander Sue's performance in class worsened, and soon, he and Liu Ying were called into the teacher's office. It was during the big break, and many classmates gathered around to watch the commotion. The teacher's scolding and comforting voices echoed in the office, while Liu Ying's voice denying the grievances of being in love came out, making the surrounding classmates even more excited. They explained briefly to the curious classmates who didn't know. I also learned from their words what Liu Ying said to Lysander Sue, because I deliberately scolded angrily. The man's pride pushed Lysander Sue, which is why he took the initiative to approach Liu Ying to inquire. At that time, Liu Ying felt very guilty and told him that she was not good at studying. After sending the love letter, she regretted it and did not want to ruin his future, so she did not go to the appointment. Lysander Sue listened and said he understood her very well. He said he could tutor Liu Ying, but Liu Ying said she was not cut out for studying and asked him to give up, treating it as if nothing had happened. Then, Lysander Sue, who had always been number one, deliberately let himself fall behind, so that he could match her when they stood together, and so that Liu Ying could be at ease being with him. He willingly devoted his true heart, and even today, when the teacher forced him to immediately cut off the relationship and resume studying, he directly refused. The teacher was quite upset, but he really couldn't bear to give up on Lysander Su, the top student. So he immediately called the parents of both children and asked them to take the kids home for some ideological education. The office door opened, and Liu Ying smiled slightly, looking very nonchalant, as if having the parents come to the school was no big deal for her. Her gaze swept from the crowd to me, her eyes somewhat playful, then she glanced back to signal Lysander Su. It was as if she was saying, "Oh, look, the tattletale has arrived." Lysander's appearance was still cold and distant. But every move he made carried a wild and unrestrained air. He followed Liu Ying's gaze towards me, frowned, and a trace of disgust welled up in his eyes. I watched helplessly as they directly pinned the blame on me, feeling somewhat puzzled. I really don't understand. It was clearly something completely unrelated to me, yet why do those two always manage to drag me into their games? What is it for? Something flashed through my mind. My eyes darkened slightly. Is it because of the childhood sweetheart identity that everyone at school teases me about? I looked toward Lysander Su, his brows furrowed even deeper, and he deliberately turned his head away to avoid my gaze, as if to avoid any misunderstanding from Liu Ying beside him, with a hint of annoyance on his face. It really was because of that. I found it even more ridiculous. No matter how much people at school talked, I never believed it. I never thought there was anything more than friendship between Lysander Su and me, and I always assumed he felt the same way. Only now do I realize how ridiculously wrong I was. No wonder he was so harsh to me in the previous life. It turns out he thought I deliberately ruined his relationship with Liu Ying out of selfishness. Lysander Su, that narcissist, actually thinks I like him. So disgusting. Looking at Liu Ying's provocatively triumphant gaze, I felt like I had swallowed a fly. A hateful couple using me to push their relationship forward. Feeling disgusted and uncomfortable, I really couldn't bring myself to smile at them. When my deskmate and I returned to the classroom for class, both of their parents had also arrived at the school. Lysander Su's mother scolded him with red-rimmed eyes, and Lysander Su couldn't even lift his head. On the other hand, Liu Ying was much more relaxed. The elegant and dignified lady said a few words and then left the school with a nonchalant-looking Liu Ying. My deskmate Tang Li glanced over twice and clicked her tongue several times. At the end of class, she looked at me with a face full of regret and said, "That childhood sweetheart of yours is destined to be let down." After a few days of hanging out, we had already become close. She knew that Lysander Su and I were completely innocent, so she spoke without any reservations. I asked with a face full of curiosity, "What do you mean?" Tang Li cautiously spoke. Liu Ying is the second young lady of the Liu family, the biggest real estate developer in this city. I heard she is going to be married off in an arranged marriage. You and Lysander Su were both so absorbed in your studies before. It's normal that you don't know these kinds of news. She has dated quite a few people before. As long as she doesn't go overboard, her family never interferes. She's used to playing around and has never been heartbroken after breakups. She probably won't feel anything special about Lysander Su either. I nodded after hearing this. Yeah, how could Lysander Su think he was the special one? I haven't been involved with Liu Ying, so I don't know what's normal. But Lysander Su hangs out with their group. How could he not know about Liu Ying's love history? If you willingly drown yourself in love, you really can't blame anyone else. The clearer it becomes. The more I despise Lysander Su's character. He is such a smart person. How could he not have known in his previous life that Liu Ying couldn't refuse the arranged marriage? He knew, but he had no way to change it, so I was just the scapegoat for his anger. Calmly accepting this fact, I lowered my head and smiled faintly. I am very curious to see how Lysander Su, who had no real bargaining power with the head of the Liu family when he was a top scholar genius, will now guard his love. When I got home, my parents were both waiting for me in the living room. They first tried to subtly probe me about Lysander Su's romantic relationship, and seeing that I had no reaction, they sighed in relief and then proceeded to lecture me about the dangers of early dating. I listened with a mix of amusement and disbelief, and only after repeatedly assuring them did they finally stop. Satisfied, Mom handed me the phone and said, "Your phone rang several times today. Take a look and reply to whoever messaged you." They told me to go back, but there was no sign of avoidance, their eyes suspicious. I also know that the recent incident with Lysander Su has sounded the alarm for them. They are very afraid I might end up the same way, and I understand. I opened my phone and glanced at it. The smile on my face vanished instantly. Freya Lynn, it was you who reported the teacher, wasn't it? You're really disgusting. The message was sent half an hour ago by Lysander Sue. My parents saw the expression on my face and asked, "What's wrong?" I took a deep breath and turned the screen toward them. After seeing clearly, my mother's expression visibly darkened, and my father looked equally furious. I said calmly, "They are very conspicuous on campus. It's hard for the teachers not to notice. I don't want to bother with them either, no matter how good the relationship between the two families is. My parents cannot tolerate me taking the blame and being insulted, so when I stood up to go next door and confront them directly, they all followed me." The door opened, and Sue's mother, with a somewhat haggard face, showed a smile when she saw us. To be honest, she treated me very well. So well that even though in my past life Lysander Sue recklessly hurt me without considering my parents' feelings, dragging me through the mud, I never really thought of unleashing my anger on them. But now, that idiot Lysander Sue, with his repeated arrogance and narcissism, I really have to come and make my stance clear. He probably thought I wouldn't tear things apart with him in front of both sets of parents, so he continued to disgust me. I cannot tolerate my concessions becoming his reason to keep attacking me. I was the first to take out my phone, pulled up the messages for Sue's mother to see clearly, then smiled bitterly and spoke as she looked on in disbelief. "Auntie, I think there might be a bit of a misunderstanding between Lysander Sue and me." After a moment of silence, our family was invited into the room. When Lysander Sue was called down by Sue's mother, his expression was still one of shock. He looked at me with a hurt gaze, as if no matter how much he scolded me, I shouldn't have made a scene in front of the parents and embarrassed him. I sneered inwardly, only wanting him to sober up properly. I spoke calmly. "Last time when you misunderstood my suitor and thought I hurt my wrist, I already said, don't come at me with unresolved anger. I am not your punching bag. I really don't want to get involved in your business with Liu Ying, because it has nothing to do with me. But since you messaged me, I feel I should clarify things in front of everyone. I'm not the one who complained. I have to study every day and am very busy, with no time to pay attention to these shady matters. More importantly, the teachers at school have eyes and are not blind. They know when you skip class or sleep during lessons." Lysander Sue looked very displeased, with an inexplicable emotion in his eyes. After a long moment, he finally spoke hoarsely. "I understand now. Sorry, I misunderstood you." His expression was somewhat strange as he walked upstairs step by step. Sue's mother looked ashamed, her eyes red-rimmed as she apologized to us. My mother saw that I was so upset that Lysander Sue couldn't hold his head up, and she was angry too. She quickly supported me and said, "It was just a misunderstanding, all small matters, once resolved, it's fine, don't take it to heart." On the way home, my parents were very silent. Just when I thought they wouldn't say anything, my dad spoke first. "Freya, stay away from that guy from the Sue family in the future. He has no sense of responsibility, loses his temper easily, and his temperament is too unstable." My mom also agreed. "That's true, no matter how talented he is, if his intentions aren't right, it's all for nothing." I nodded repeatedly. Mom and Dad were absolutely right. He is just a crazy person whose way of thinking is different from normal people. From that day on, Lysander Sue never contacted me again. When he returned to school again, it was already 3 days later. According to his parents, Sue's father and mother have been trying to persuade him, but he wouldn't listen. Last night, he had a big fight with the family over their urging to break up, which angered Sue's father so much that he ended up in the hospital in the middle of the night. Not only did he refuse to go with them, but he also took advantage of the fact that no one was home to stop him and returned to school. He became even more flamboyant than before, wearing earrings in his ears, and the previously neat school uniform was replaced by a flashy leather jacket. Truly catching everyone's attention, just as she stepped out of the classroom, she saw the strikingly handsome Lysander Sue, and a spark of interest finally ignited in Liu Ying's eyes, perhaps finding it interesting, or maybe being captivated by the way others were willing to give everything for her and risk everything. Liu Ying officially confirmed her romantic relationship with Lysander Sue. Previously, the two had restrained themselves on campus, only being a bit disobedient in class, but now, accompanied by someone, Liu Ying directly brought her bad habits from outside school into the campus. They smoked, fought, and even found it amusing to threaten the younger students. The Dean of Discipline criticized them by name several times. and seeing that Lysander Su showed no remorse, decided to kick him out of the Qingbei class. Our homeroom teacher was too disappointed in him and had no objections. After all, no matter how much she valued a promising student, she didn't dare let us continue to stay in the same class with him, fearing it would affect us. I focused on studying, reviewing the material, hoping to achieve a better score. At the same time, I was also waiting to close the net. Living close to the Su family, I could hear whenever there was a big commotion in their house. After spending a whole week not coming home at night, Lysander Su had another intense argument with his parents upon returning. Mrs. Su threatened Lysander Su with cutting off parental ties to make him return to his old self, but Lysander Su didn't care and said if they wanted to cut ties, then so be it. He never wanted to go back to those boring days again. He slammed the door and left, and after he was gone, Mr. Su was so upset that he ended up in the hospital. He was hospitalized for 2 days, and Lysander Su didn't visit even once. The child they had raised with so much effort had become someone who didn't care about his parents' well-being. Mr. and Mrs. Su were truly heartbroken and stopped paying attention to Lysander Su. Lysander Su completely let himself go this time, dyeing his hair a flamboyant red and spending his days cruising around with Liu Ying. The two held hands, hugged, and kissed, appearing very much in love. But one day, a major piece of news broke out. Liu Ying was playing both sides. And she also got involved with the bar waiter. Lysander Su got into a fight, and something else happened that night. But anyway, Liu Ying broke up with him. That day, when the two were struggling at the campus gate, Liu Ying slapped Lysander Su while crying, then ran away immediately. Unfortunately, I happened to be nearby at the time and saw everything clearly. Lysander Su, who had always been proud and aloof in front of me, had swollen cheeks and a sullen expression for a moment, but in the end, he hurriedly chased after him. Watching him sink deeper and deeper, I curled my lips and let out a light laugh. This matter has caused quite a stir. The young lord who is to be married into the Liu family will probably find out soon. Sure enough, within a couple of days, when I came home at night, I saw Liu Ying crying loudly at the Su family's doorstep. I kept my eyes straight ahead, pretending not to see, and went straight into the house. Then hid around the corner on the second floor listening to the noises outside. Liu Ying was crying, grabbing Lysander Su and throwing a tantrum. It's all your fault. I've been broken off now. Are you satisfied? Boo-hoo. I could have married into the Wang family cleanly, but now that chance has gone to my cousin. Even my parents have kicked me out of the house. Lysander Su's voice was hoarse. I had been drinking at the time, and I was just too angry. That's why. He paused for a moment, then continued, his voice betraying his joy. Liu Ying, believe me, I will take responsibility for you. I will definitely treat you well from now on. They held each other closely, openly affectionate as if no one else was around. I listened from the shadows, a cold smile curling at the corner of my lips. It turns out Lysander Su lost his temper and came on strong. No wonder Liu Ying was abandoned by her family so quickly. Both the Liu family and the Wang family are big enterprises. They value interests above all else. Liu Ying didn't study well and had no strengths. Her biggest advantage was her good looks and the affection of the Wang family's young master. Now that she has a substantial relationship with someone else, it's no longer just a trivial matter. How could such an arrogant young master Wang still want her? Once her engagement was broken off and she lost her last bit of value, the Liu family immediately gave up on her and replaced her with another girl. I shook my head, my eyes filled with mockery. I even thought of several countermeasures to deal with them, but now it seems I overestimated them. They really don't need me to put in much effort. They've already dug their own graves. Ever since Liu Ying was abandoned by the Liu family, she no longer dared to be as arrogant and domineering as before. She used to be proud and bullied many people, but now those people see her abandoned and wait at the school gate every day to confront her. Without the backing of her support network, she no longer had the courage she once did, so scared that she didn't even dare to go to school. Taking advantage of the time when Su's parents were on a business trip, she stayed at the Su family home the whole time. The roles suddenly reversed. Before, Lysander Su was the one desperately chasing after her, but now it was she who was holding on to Lysander Su tightly, unwilling to let go. She was used to living a good life and had no intention of enduring a lower quality of life with Lysander Su in the future, so she began urging Lysander Su to study hard and improve himself. Lysander Su had finally started enjoying his freedom and naturally didn't want to give it up. He refused once. But in the end, he couldn't resist Liu Ying's pleas and went back to school. He studied diligently, putting in some of his old energy. But this time there were people who didn't want him to learn. He used to find it fun, but the classmates he and Liu Ying used to bully together began to target him. Those students who were oppressed by Liu Ying's family power and couldn't vent their anger took it out on him. And even leadership's criticism and warnings were useless. Lysander Su's days are very difficult now. Once, he was the revered academic prodigy at school, but ever since he fell into the habit of bullying his classmates at will, he became a ruthless delinquent. The aura he once despised was taken down by his own hands, and the reckless freedom he longed for brought him bitter suffering. He inexplicably fell while getting food, his completed homework vanished without reason, and he was locked in the restroom when he went there, among other things. Most of the things he and Liu Ying had done in the past were now being returned to him. Liu Ying was not at school, he was isolated and helpless, with no one to help him. At first, he would resist, but over time, he became increasingly silent. Once, I even caught him coming home soaking wet. The long-standing frustration, combined with Liu Ying's daily urging for him to improve, just like Su's mother used to do, finally led to a quarrel between them. I stood on the balcony, feeling the cold wind, listening to the sound of dishes crashing to the floor and the fierce argument between the two. They blamed and insulted each other, ending with Liu Ying crying out in pain. And Lysander Su finally lowered his head to comfort her and end the quarrel. Lysander Su really couldn't stand being targeted and chose to study at home directly. He and Liu Ying were being lovey-dovey at home, and Liu Ying even had to urge him to study. Su's parents, returning from a business trip, opened the door and happened to see the two being close, their faces immediately darkening. They drove Liu Ying out as the owners of the house, loudly scolding the two of them for being shameless. The neighbors around all came out at the noise, but the Su family parents didn't care about their own dignity at all and scolded them harshly. I and the people around watched the commotion from afar, seeing Lysander Su silently stand in front of Liu Ying, his face pale and greenish. After the Su family parents finished scolding, he calmly dropped an explosive piece of news. Ying is pregnant, Mom and Dad, she has nowhere to go, you can't drive her away. His parents looked shocked. And I was very surprised too. Even if it was unexpected, normal people would know to buy medicine. Right, this is just too outrageous. Recalling how Lysander Su had desperately sought but failed in his previous life, I raised an eyebrow. Now it's perfect, he can get both things he wanted. After the shock, Su's mother looked at Lysander Su with complete disappointment. With a calm expression, she grabbed Su's father's arm to stop his rising anger, then spoke, Lysander Su, you've grown up too. And we can't control you anymore. From now on, do whatever you want. We're cutting ties. Su's mother pointed to the house behind her, her gaze cold. This house is for you. All our other assets will go to your sister. You don't need to see us anymore. We will live with your sister. Lysander Su's pupils contracted sharply, staring at her in disbelief. But Su's mother ignored him and, together with the silent Su father, turned around pulling their suitcases and left. By the time Lysander Su reacted and wanted to give chase, the Su family parents had already gotten into a taxi and left. He stood there dazed, his expression still somewhat vacant. The pointing and whispering of the people around became unbearable for Liu Ying. She hurriedly took a few steps to grab Lysander Su, but for the first time, Lysander Su avoided her touch and silently walked into the house. Liu Ying was stunned for a moment, then gritted her teeth and quickly followed. I was surprised by the decisiveness of the Su family parents, but after a moment of thought, I felt this was the best outcome. Lysander Su acts without regard for anyone else's feelings, completely self-centered. Such a person will sooner or later hurt them and leave them utterly disappointed. Now, this is just right. As the college entrance exam approached, I became increasingly focused on my studies and no longer worried about Lysander Su. He hasn't studied for a long time, but with his intelligence, getting into a good university is still not a problem. However, based on what I found out recently, I don't need to interfere. Someone will make things difficult for him. Mom and Dad were both nervously studying with me, and they tried to comfort me, telling me not to be anxious and just perform normally when the time comes. I watched them so nervous that they even wore their slippers on the wrong feet. Yet I never admitted that I wasn't nervous at all. After the college entrance exam was over, I finally relaxed and started paying attention to the things around me. Tang Li seemed to be doing well, smiling cheerfully and telling me that she would definitely attend the same school as me. I smiled and congratulated her in advance. The next moment, her smile faded, and she looked a bit regretful. Lysander Su didn't take the college entrance exam this time. Sigh, a generation of academic prodigy has thus declined. Although I didn't know how she got such timely news, it didn't stop me from inquiring further. When she heard my question, she looked around cautiously and then carefully told me, the day before the college entrance exam, his hand was broken by someone. I heard it was so mangled that passers-by rushed him to the hospital. That's how he missed the exam. I understood and chuckled to myself. Should I call this karma? Lysander Su ruined my dreams in a past life, and in this life, my hopes were destroyed at the most important moment. After all the calculations, I should actually thank young Master Wang for his ruthlessness. This outcome not only satisfied his grudge but also left me very pleased. I smiled and turned to her. Let's not talk about him anymore. We've finally been freed. How about going on a trip to relax? Tang Li's eyes lit up, and she immediately nodded in agreement. Coming back again, it was already a month later. After receiving the admission notice, I still chose the school from my previous life, the ultimate wish I didn't fulfill in my past life. I want to achieve it this time. Since my parents found out I did very well on the exam, they immediately started traveling everywhere. No one is home, and this time I came back to pack my things. My parents bought a house near my university. We will settle there in the future and probably won't come back here much. They were busy traveling and kept urging me to come back to pack up and move. I also wanted them to have a good rest, so I agreed on my own. I just didn't expect that my return would be so unlucky. Running into the acquaintance I least wanted to see, after not seeing each other for a while, Lysander Su had changed a lot. He looked very disheveled, his eyes red as if he hadn't slept well for a long time. He saw me, froze for a moment, then quickly walked towards me. He came in, looking a bit uneasy, and only after 2 or 3 seconds did he react, putting his hands behind his back and giving me a smile. Long time no see. I actually saw how his fingers were deformed and twisted, but I didn't say anything, just smiled and nodded. I didn't want to reminisce with him. I just wanted to go home quickly. Lysander Su must have noticed this, his expression a bit awkward. But he still didn't take the initiative to step aside. He was silent for a long time, and when I was very impatient, he spoke with a bitter smile. Freya, actually I've always regretted it. Even today, I keep thinking, if that love letter hadn't been left on my desk back then, would things have turned out differently? I was stunned, looked up at him, but he was completely unaware and continued talking about his recent matters and pain as if to himself. I haven't heard anything about him for a long time. I kept moving upward, and after avenging the grudge, I left him behind in my mind. Behind me is the position of Lysander Su. I remained silent, listening to his story. He said he couldn't get in touch with his parents, that he knew he was wrong but had no way to make amends. He said Liu Ying was an ungrateful wretch. He had given so much for her, even his future was gone, yet she just ran away and left him. I watched him say he was wrong. But on his face, he still only blamed others for the mistakes, which was not surprising at all, because Lysander Su is exactly that kind of selfish person. He only thinks about himself and never seriously reflects on his own faults. All the misfortunes clearly had his own active part in them, yet he never thought he was really wrong. With people like this, there's really nothing to say. The best way is to stay away. Lysander Su finished speaking and looked at me painfully. Freya, if only you hadn't left that love letter on my desk back then. No matter what you do, you just can't satisfy someone like him. Even after being reborn, he still acts like everyone misunderstands and has betrayed him to death. I looked him straight in the eye, sneered coldly, my voice dripping with sarcasm. You regret it, want to take back the brilliant life you desired, and then you'll be dissatisfied again, blaming me for ruining my hands because you lost the one you loved, right? He looked at me with a pale face. So this is your revenge, because I hurt you. He stretched out the hand that was behind his back, letting me see it. I glanced at it and immediately laughed. You're wrong, I didn't do it. I just placed the love letter on your desk as you wished. I'm not so bored as to waste time on you. I have many things to do and not that much time to target you. He looked at me for 2 seconds, then gave a bitter smile and nodded. I understand. Sorry for misunderstanding you. After apologizing, he turned and left. I stared at his back for a long time. The next day, he was dead, having slit his wrists in suicide. Before dying, he updated his last post on Moments. I regret it. I want to go back. I don't want love anymore. I only see boredom. How can someone who is always selfish and self-centered ever find happiness? Thinking back to when he asked yesterday if it was my revenge, I smiled faintly. I didn't exactly lie to him. But what I said wasn't entirely true either. At the bar they often go to, I posted a fake job advertisement that attracted several types that Liu Ying likes. I was just setting the stage, never expecting Liu Ying to actually fall for it, and the one she liked happened to be her ex-boyfriend. I only did these things. It hardly counts as revenge. They were just eager to bring trouble on themselves. What mistake could I have made?